You're listening to the Movers Union podcast. We're here to talk about movement, philosophy, and everything in between. My name is Ben Wexler.
And I am Justin Cooper. We are both movement specialists, and this is the Movers Union.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I have with me Justin Cooper, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. As best we can in these strange times. Keeping myself active and productive and motivated as much as possible.
Nice, dude. Nice. What would you say is like your biggest accomplishment so far?
Biggest accomplishment since this quarantine happened? I first off the top of my head would give it to my YouTube channel.
Hey.
That's been going on.
Yeah. You just hit 100, right?
I did. I just passed 100 2 days ago. I know you're right there knocking on the door.
Right there, baby.
I see it. You're
98.
I feel like by the end of the day you'll be there.
We'll be at 100. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel like your biggest accomplishment is, or like, I don't know, thing you're most proud of that you've done in the last 60 days or however long this quarantine's been?
Mine was just going full blown, independent, really. You know what I mean? Because like just with the way everything worked out, like I basically quit all my jobs before the quarantine hit because I was set to go on this teacher training. And then, so I was a free agent, and then the quarantine happened, and a bunch of students asked me to do a live stream, and I did one, and it was awesome. And then I was just like, I thought back to like how a few days before, like pretty much my last class at 49er Fit, went to dinner with a bunch of students, and I was just talking to them about how like the one thing I wish I could bring them was a daily practice. Like, it's really cool that they practice 1-2 times a week, but if they could somehow find a way to practice every single day, that would be the best. Because anytime I've done 2 big challenges, yoga challenges. I did one, and it was just do it every day for as long as I could. I hit 54, that was power yoga, and then 60 with Bikram yoga. Yeah. And both of those times were just like the biggest, points of growth within, that phase of my life. And so I was just like, okay, like I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And I streamed every day, 30 days, offered classes to people. And it was a wild ride. And now it's like pushed me to go through and like really see what I can do with this,
Yeah,
so
for sure. I feel like doing anything every day for like whatever, 30 days, 60 days, like that can just be a powerful, obviously yoga in itself is an act that's powerful, but like any small thing where you can just be like, hey, like I'm doing this every day, like there's no question about it. It's just
Absolutely.
like what you're going to do, and the benefit that has on your like willpower and just what you, I don't know, how much you believe in yourself or whatever, like your confidence will definitely shoot up from that, no matter what the task is, whether it's whatever, yoga or I'm going to run every day or whatever thing. It doesn't have to be a physical thing either. Maybe reading, at least 10 pages every day, or like whatever else you can do that just, fits into your lifestyle, but be that one thing where you're like, I'm going to do this every day,
Yeah, for like a couple reasons. I think one, like just the feeling of, hey, I'm committed to this and I'm following through with this. It like boosts your self-perception to where it's like, wow, like I'm actually following through with this, and it makes you feel better and gives you confidence to tackle like more things after that. And then also like committing to doing something every day just shifts your whole perspective around it. It goes from, should I do this or will I do this, to like there's no thought about it whatsoever. And then other things in your life start to come together in a way to like make that easier. You know what I mean? Like if you have to do yoga at 9 a.m. on Saturday because that's the only class your studio has, you're probably not going to go out drinking Friday night. And if you do go out Friday,
right,
you're gonna take it easier. You know what I mean? For example, that's just one of the examples. And then the deeper you go, the deeper it gets. Like I found too, like during my those time periods, my diet just quickly became spot on because I don't want to eat anything because I knew I'd have to work through that when I hit my mat.
It keeps you on point because since it is all connected. like, then it's like, well, I know that I'm going to do this thing, so I want to show up my best to be able to do it.
Right.
And then so it's like, okay, yeah, you're getting the right amount of sleep. You're, all of a sudden you're eating more, you're getting more vegetables in, whatever it is, and then it all snowballs.
Right.
I've been having this thought, like in a similar way, and I don't know your stance on this, so whatever. But
we're about to find out.
I feel like this is one of the great benefits of religion. And to throw that out there, like, I'm not religious at all.
Okay.
But
just to clear that up real quick.
Clear that up. But, like, I have over, I don't know how much time it's been now, the past 2 years, maybe we'll say, I've been able to appreciate religions more.
Yeah.
And not that I
agreed.
subscribe to any one of them, but I'll see, like, so like we're saying, having something that you do every day that you're not questioning, like, religion brings that to people's lives.
It
and
does.
It kind of just gives it to that, whether it's like, oh, your nightly prayers or your, I don't know, what else do religious people do? But these rituals, whether it is, something you're doing every day, or like Lent just passed, it's like being in the habit of every year giving something up for an extended period of time. Like all of these things, they're all ritualistic things that benefit people and their life, right?
Yeah.
And it gets kind of weird, but like the actual like kind of meat and bones of it is like, oh, they're doing this and it survived for thousands of years or whatever because it's beneficial. Mm-hmm. There might be some like other, weirder reason behind it or whatever it might be, but there's that underlying current of like, oh yeah, this is a positive thing and everybody should be doing this.
Right.
Everybody, you might find it in different ways, like, oh, every Sunday getting together at church with your whole community. Great. Like, you should be doing that once a week. Mm-hmm. Whether you're going to church or whatever. It might just be, Sunday brunch with your parents or, whatever. Maybe all your friends get together on Friday night and go out to a bar when we're not in quarantine. Or like whatever. But that communal drive of people, that's important as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of religious practices, whether they know it or not, are rooted in spirituality. Like the one that always gets me is like, so mindful eating, right? Is like being present to the food, being grateful to have food, taking a moment to acknowledge, hey, I'm eating right now and this is awesome, and pay respect to the food, and really trying to enjoy it. Like, what is that? It's saying grace. You know what I mean? Like, say grace, right. Give thanks for the food. And it took me a few times, to really realize it, because I would get my food and I'd stop and I'd take a moment. And oh wow, like I'm legit saying grace right now. You know what I mean? Like it's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah. I think where we get lost in religion is like who said what and when did it happen? The names and the dates and like what name you call God is like where a lot of it gets, a little hazy. But if you can just like, this is what I believe again. I don't know how you feel about this, but like if you can just take pretty much all the religions and just like extract the core principles, like you'd see a lot of overlap. It maybe even 100% overlap in like pretty much all the religions. You know what I mean?
I think people that do that really well. So like Jordan Peterson talks a lot about that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've like.
I love Jordan B. Peterson. I haven't heard him talk about this though.
Oh yeah, he does it in such a like graceful way. I mean, you know how he is with words and whatnot.
One of the
if you've heard him talk,
speakers, yeah.
And so he takes these. He takes these ideas, but he'll be able to, because he knows so much about like every religion and like history and everything, like that's, a big part of what he does. He'll take this one idea and then be able to weave in like, whatever. They'll be able to weave in stuff from the Bible, but then also weave in stuff from from like Greek philosophy or like myths and like whatever else, or taking it from, Jewish studies or whatever, Muslim, anything, like all this stuff, he'll be able to like weave them in together. And that's when you start seeing like, oh, where like just the benefit lies with all of this, and that it is all kind of the same thing.
Yeah. And Jordan B. Peterson talks a lot about like how humans, we thrive on stories, you know, and like you're talking about, a lot of these archetypes fit into the stories. You know, you'll see the same archetypes come up over and over again in different stories, like the hero's journey, classic story, right?
Yeah.
That we see like over and over again in different forms. Just like seeing the value in stories is like basically like ways to impart wisdom upon us and help us level up, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's why, at least potentially why religion was created to begin with, right? Like religion is kind of like this encapsulation of all of these stories, right? And it's just like, well, this is how we pass it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like religion is the vessel that holds all of the stories that are like necessary for, you know, like human growth and realization and whatnot. It's just like people wrote different books at different times. You know?
Do you think yoga is religious?
I think there's certainly a way to remove yoga from religion or like separate the two. Like it depends, like what and how are you going to define yoga? And there are a bunch of people that would say like, you know, you can't take them apart because it is whatever, it's where it comes from. But like, who's making these rules? That's stupid.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how are you
Like-
define? Unless if you then want to define like, oh, if I just want to take the movement aspect of yoga and practice that, then like I guess somebody on that side of the argument could say, oh, well, that's not yoga because you're, you know, right? Like, okay. So semantics, how do you want to define what, you know, what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like when
Yeah.
people get so hard up about stuff like that, I question them. It's like, what's your motive, or what are you doing? Like, why is that such a big deal for you? Why is that like a hill that you're willing to die on, or whatever? Like,
Right.
let's just take the good from everything that we come into contact with, right? You take what works for you, you know, keep that, discard what else doesn't, and you know, move on. And then keep going through life like that, right? Like that's what you want to do.
I mean, and even if you're a yoga practitioner and you read Bhagavad Gita or the Yoga Sutra, like the Bhagavad Gita is like a tale where Krishna basically helps this guy Arjuna through this battle. He's like not sure if he should battle, and Krishna is like, yo, you only have one life to live. This is your duty in this moment. You know, you should battle. And that's pretty much his whole case, is you should fight this fight because you're here to fight it, so you might as well fight it. It's a parallel to life. It's like, well, you're here and you might as well live it, because if you live it fully and you pursue whatever you want to the fullest degree, then you get to die knowing like, hey, I lived the full life. I pursued it, whether you made it or not. And if you do make it, then you get the earthly riches and rewards that you get to. And that was like the whole pretty much story about it. But it's like, I could read that and I could learn that and not go and worship Krishna. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
But so then the question would be, though, how are you defining worship? Because, like, I might argue that we worship, like, yeah, we do worship Krishna. Like, to worship something is to understand and see characteristics in this person or the characteristics that they represent and aspire to be like that, right?
Right. Okay.
Like that's basic. Like that's why we worship things.
Right.
Right? Like, because you see the good in it and you aspire to be like that. And that's what all of these things like symbolize, and you know, that like that's what they hold. And then it's, you know, well, are you supposed to like worship, you know, like are we supposed to be worshiping, I'll take Jesus as an example, like are we supposed to be worshiping Jesus as a man? Like, do you think that he would want people like bowing at his feet like, oh my God, almighty Savior? Or are you worshiping him by aspiring to, you know, turn the other cheek and aspiring to treat others how you would like to be treated, and these things like
teachings, yeah.
That's what it actually is, right?
Right.
So like in that way, yeah, we can worship Krishna for that idea and characteristic of like, hey, you're here, so be here, do what you're here to do, accept it, live your life. I remember in my teacher training, like the idea of Ganesh or Ganesha, right? Like the elephant drunk one, whatever. Like
he's my favorite, dude.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite.
Yeah.
But so he's like the remover of obstacles, right? Yeah. But then also, he's the remover of obstacles, but he's also the one putting those obstacles in the way, right?
Right.
And it's like, damn, that is real, where it's like it's by the same hand, and so these obstacles are being put in place in order to have you achieve a certain level of enlightenment or education or experience, whatever it is. And then once you learn that, okay, then I'll remove the obstacle. But do you think that are you sitting there worshiping an elephant, or are you respecting what it represents? So then when you bring that to mind, like, oh yeah, like Ganesha, it's an easy symbol of the way to kind of sparse through these, more complicated ideas, where it's like, oh yeah, so I'm going through a problem. There's Ganesha. I know that he represents the one who puts them there, but also that they can be removed, and it's up to me to remove them once I learn the lesson. Like, is that not worshiping Ganesha? But like, I don't think that I'm, worshiping some elephant somewhere,
Right.
It's the idea. It's like the essence of it, right?
Yeah. I think that, like in a way, for sure, like following whatever it is that they had to say and celebrating what they said is a form of worship. But I would, like, when I think of worship, I think of like doing ceremonies in this person's name and like bowing to them and like Hare Krishna and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
there are definitely people doing it in that way also, but I think that I would argue that the core and root of what they're doing is still just honoring the traits that person or character or whatever represents. They're just doing it in a more traditional way or whatever, but in that sense, whether they are bowing to it and lighting incense and they're like dancing around in a circle because like that's the way that their tradition has like done it for thousands of years, I think it's still in an attempt to cultivate the characteristics from them that are desirable.
Yeah, but the thing is too, like, you can do all that stuff and still not take away what you're supposed to be taking away. Like, you can eat the bread of Christ and drink the blood of Christ and still not walk in the way of Christ or Buddha or Krishna or Ganesha or...
But if they're doing that, would you consider them worshiping that person or thing or entity or whatever?
Right. So what do you call it, right? Yeah. In the conventional sense, absolutely. But like, are they actually following through?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, that's like a form of, this is one of my favorite terms, mental masturbation.
Okay.
Yeah. You just think about like you living this awesome life and doing all the things you should, but you don't actually do it.
Yeah.
A lot of people fall in that category, like a lot of people, even like we've both been to Vipassana, so we know Goenka, right? And that's one of the things he says is like a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll find this religion, and he says he likes religion to doctors, right? And he says like, you don't go to a doctor. He writes down a prescription for you, gives you the prescription, and then you go around waving your prescription in your neighbor's face and say, look, this is the prescription. This is what you got to do. I know this. I have the best doctor. This is what you got to do. It's right here, without actually like taking the medicine.
Right.
You know what I mean? But okay, I feel like I'm in a space where I'm bashing religions right now, and I don't want to be there either,
Right.
Like, but I like a lot of this stuff I think needs to be called to light. But at its core, religion it's a very spiritual practice. Like, it's community. One of my favorite things about church is singing, like just getting together and, I think it's called worship, right? They call it worship. Like, you get together and you sing and you're in a big group of people and you're singing. Like, what's more magical than that?
Yeah,
than
that's
a bunch
powerful.
of people getting together and singing,
And that's
like,
something that
just
you'll find in every religion.
the human soul. Exactly, right? It's dancing and singing and worship, because God is life, I think like God is like life. God is expression, God is energy, God is light, God is positivity, God is connection, and that's what all that is,
Yeah, agreed. And it's like you're celebrating God or whatever, but you're celebrating him by moving your body. You're celebrating him by living the life that you're here to live. The same thing what you just told us about Krishna. You're celebrating God by living the life. You're given this body. It's your responsibility to move it and to do
the most of it,
to do positive things with it and express it.
Yes.
Another way where they cross over. It's the same.
There's so many. Like, I just wish, because the problem, there's two big ones that I can think of. One is it creates differences between people, and then they have wars, okay? And that's the biggest one. And then the other one is like the money and the politics that kind of go into it, So like, if we could just find a way to have a religion and just like scrape the names and just have the teachings, and the dates don't matter, and it's just, these are the teachings of God, like every religion so far has agreed upon it. Let's just acknowledge these. You know what I mean? Like, let's acknowledge, like, we're the same, we're human flesh, you know what I mean? Like, and God is in us, Like, let's respect each other, let's love each other, let's do what he says, regardless of whether it was Jesus or whoever else,
Agreed.
Every person in the world has way more in common than we have that separates us.
Mm-hmm. And for the most part, I mean, you go through, when was the last negative experience you had with a person? Like, I don't know, not really, Granted, we're not coming in contact with as many people as usual. But like, like generally, like it's definitely a surprise and like a one-off situation when, you go to the grocery store and someone was a dick to you or whatever. Then you come home and you're like, I can't believe what happened. I was at the grocery store and this guy, whatever, like threw my chips out of my basket. I don't know, whatever the fuck happened.
Right.
That doesn't happen, We're all living here fairly harmoniously, even with our differences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Buddha said that life is suffering, and I feel like everyone is kind of going through the another day, and we're all just suffering together, and it's up to us to make this suffering like a little more enjoyable, through the little things, through the smiles. Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
A little small talk, things like that.
Cool.
And showing up for ourselves. I know you got to get going, my man. I think that was a good, solid way to end it. Dude, much love, brother.
Yes, you too.
Let's do this again very soon.
Cool. Sounds good.
We will. All right.
Thank you for watching or listening. If you enjoyed, please subscribe to WexPower on YouTube or find Kula Wellness on your favorite podcast app in order to stay up to date with the latest episodes.